Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Last week I didn't upload a video because I was a little preoccupied. If you saw my community post, or if you follow me on Twitter, then you already know that I rescued a bearded dragon. So before I show you the bearded dragon or his setup, let me first tell you his story and how I came to rescue him. So I've been researching bearded dragons for quite some time now. I've been interested in getting one, but I didn't plan on getting one quite so soon. So a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting at my desk at work, and the guy who sits at the desk next to me asked me if I would be interested in taking a bearded dragon that one of his friends on Facebook was trying to rehome. He showed me her Facebook post where she mentioned wanting to rehome this bearded dragon, and immediately I was interested. My coworker created a group chat for the three of us because her and I were not friends on Facebook and we'd never met or talked to each other before. And immediately upon showing interest in her bearded dragon, she let me know what was going on. Apparently, she was trying to flee an abusive boyfriend that she had been in a relationship with for the past 13 years. There are kids involved as well. She's taking the kids with her. She's actually fleeing out of the city, maybe even out of the state, I'm not sure, but she couldn't take the bearded dragon with her. Come to find out, she also has other animals as well. I wasn't really prepared to deal with any other animals, but I did offer to go ahead and take the bearded dragon. So over the course of the next week, maybe less, the three of us talked and we coordinated a time for me to come and get the bearded dragon. My coworker assisted me with this because he has a big van and she had a 4-foot long tank that the bearded dragon was being kept in, and I was getting that as well. And also, since she was fleeing an abusive boyfriend, I didn't feel comfortable going into that house alone to get this animal. I wanted some backup there with me, and so I was happy to have my coworker go with me and help me out with this. Not even a week later, I went and I got the animal, and on the day that I went to go get the animal, I got a message from her apologizing that the house was a wreck. She said that her boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, had gone through and trashed everything in the house in a fit of rage. And when I showed up at the house, it was definitely in bad shape. Stuff all over the floor, stuff thrown all over the place. It looked bad. It was really bad. There was not even a path to walk down into the basement to get to the bearded dragon. We had to clear a path in the clutter just to get to the bearded dragon. And when I saw the tank and the conditions that the bearded dragon was in, my heart sank. This enclosure was filthy. It looked like it hadn't been cleaned in a very long time. She primarily fed the bearded dragon strawberries and dubia roaches. When I looked inside the enclosure, I could see bearded dragon poop everywhere, dead roaches everywhere, and there was a dried out bowl of strawberries sitting in the enclosure as well, and they looked really rough. The enclosure was hardscaped with a bunch of rock and a big piece of wood that he used as a basking area. I did manage to salvage some of that rock and the big piece of wood. There were so many dead roaches in the tank, it was bad. Every time I would remove a rock, I would uncover a pile of dead roaches. And by the time I got all of the rocks removed, it was just a layer of roaches and poop. So I put all of the rocks and the wood into a box, and I put the bearded dragon into a basket, and we loaded everything up into the van and we left with it. I should also mention that it was at this time that I discovered there was also a fish tank that had several fish in it at the house that I wasn't able to help, and there were also 4 cats in the house. Apparently she was in such a hurry to leave that she wasn't able to find new homes for all of these cats or for these fish. And to my knowledge, the cats were being taken to a shelter, and I don't know what the plan was for the fish. As far as I know, they may have been abandoned in the house. My coworker that went with me did consider taking one of the cats home, but he was unable to get hold of his wife and didn't think it was a very wise idea to take a cat home without his wife responding first. Luckily he didn't, because eventually she did respond and say no. So as far as I know, those 4 cats are now in a shelter, or at least 3 of them are. One of the cats was, and I quote, feral and hiding somewhere in the house. We did feed the cats while we were there, and 3 of the 4 cats came out and interacted with us and thanked us for the food. Obviously, the feral one didn't come out. We never saw that one. Initially, the plan was to bring everything back here to my place, including the tank, and We were just going to put the tank and the rocks and all of that stuff out on my deck for me to clean the next day because it was very late at night. And I was going to temporarily house the bearded dragon in a 20-gallon long aquarium with a lid. We actually decided not to bring the tank and the rocks back to my house because my coworker has a power washer. So we took all those items back to his house with the plan that I would come over the next day and clean it all up. We did bring the bearded dragon back to my house, and I did go ahead and put him in a 20-gallon long enclosure, just temporarily. I did bring his lighting back to my house though, because lighting is very important for a bearded dragon. He had several lamps for UV and heat and basking, so I wanted to make sure he had access to those. So temporarily, I did set him up in a 20-gallon long aquarium that I just happened to have sitting around with a wire lid like you can buy from Petco, and I meal prepped salads for him for the next 3 days, and I went to bed. The next morning, I fed him his salad, and I went to work, and then after work that day, I went over to my coworker's house and went ahead and cleaned up the bearded dragon's enclosure. And it was a lot worse than I initially suspected. Not only was there a bunch of poop and dead roaches in there, but the top rim of the enclosure itself had actually melted and broken in certain areas and was being held together with screws and wood. There was also sticky stuff all over the tank and the lid from where duct tape had been stuck to it for whatever reason, as well as those sticky pest pads that people set out to catch bugs or mice on, that the stickiness just never goes away. Yeah, some of those were stuck to the outside of the enclosure as well. I don't know why, but they left a sticky residue behind on the enclosure that I still to this day haven't been able to get rid of. Luckily, there's none of that on the inside of the tank or I wouldn't be using it. When I removed the tiles from the bottom of the tank, I discovered a layer of reptile carpet that was totally saturated in urine and nastiness, and when I removed that, there was a yellow and brown layer of what used to be white paper towels that was also completely saturated. Initially, my plan was to reuse the tiles, but I actually ended up just throwing all of those tiles and everything that was underneath it away, and from there we decided to power spray the tank and all of the rocks and the wood that I decided I was going to keep. We also soaked the tank in Dawn dish soap. While I was over there cleaning up the enclosure, my coworker's kids did something really cute. They decorated some rocks for the bearded dragon and also one for my leopard gecko. And I did end up putting those rocks in the enclosure with him, so when I show you the enclosure, I'll make sure to point out those rocks to you. Unfortunately, we didn't get the enclosure and all those rocks and everything back to my house until really late that night, and the bearded dragon's lights had already gone out for the day, and I didn't want to bother him any more than I needed to, so I decided to go ahead and wait until the next day to set up that enclosure and put him in it, just to make sure that anything that might have been living in the wood or on the rocks was dead. I did go ahead and freeze those overnight in my freezer, and then the next day I did go ahead and set up his enclosure. As far as the health of the bearded dragon goes, there are a few items of concern. One of them being he is very skinny. It's almost as if his belly is sunken in. I've seen a lot of bearded dragons, but I've never seen one whose belly is so sunken in like this, so that is very concerning to me. Whenever I feed him, he doesn't really have any interest in eating his greens or anything like that. I do still feed him a salad every day, but he is very picky and doesn't eat most of the stuff that's in the salad. I have been feeding him a salad that is made from mustard greens and turnip greens with some diced green peppers and diced cucumber and a little bit of diced strawberry just to help entice him to eat it because I know he was eating strawberries before. And it seems like he just picks the strawberries out of the salad and then kicks the rest of it around all over his enclosure. He is very good about eating his bugs though. So far I've discovered that he does like dubia roaches and superworms. His owner also said he was in shed when I got him, however he's been in shed this whole time and he doesn't look any better. I'm actually starting to believe that maybe he might be stuck in shed and needs some help with that. He also didn't poop for the first 3 days that I had him, and so I soaked him, and when I soaked him, he pooped for the first time since I got him, and it was a lot of poop. He has been pooping regularly ever since then. One thing that I've noticed though is that he does not poop in his water bowl like most people say their bearded dragons do. Instead, he just kind of poops all over his enclosure. And I kind of wish he would poop in his water bowl because it would be a lot easier to clean up, because right now I'm having to take his enclosure apart every day so that I can clean everything and then put it all back together. If he would just poop in his water bowl, then I would just have to change his water and that's it. So this is the bearded dragon right here. He is, like I said, 5 years old. I was told that he is a citrus normal, but for being a citrus, he doesn't look very brightly colored. So that's one of the reasons why I think he might be stuck in shed. And if I can peel him off of me, I'll show you his belly and how sunken in it is. Okay, he doesn't want to come off. Ah! There we go. So let's see if I can show you. Look how thin he is. So that's one of the items that I'm concerned about, is how thin his belly is. Look at that. He is a cool looking dude though. He also has all these little black spots on him that I don't know what they are. You can see that black spot there. And then he's got another one on his tail right here. And I don't know what those black spots are, but he has them scattered about his body. At first I was thinking maybe they were mites, but they don't move. So it looks more like maybe dead scales of some sort. He has a very good personality. He takes handling very well. As for names, I think I've decided to name him Garrus, after the character from Mass Effect. Initially, Rex was a contender, because Krogans look a lot like bearded dragons, and there's also a parody of the laughing bearded dragon meme, where the bearded dragon is dressed up as Rex. It's floating around, and I thought that was really cool. But after a couple of days of calling him Rex, it just didn't feel right, and I felt like his name should be Garrus, and so I changed it to Garrus. He did have a different name. I decided not to keep it. I didn't like his original name. I'm not going to say what his original name was either, just to help kind of protect the identity of the woman that I got him from. Considering the circumstances surrounding his rescue, I feel it's just best that I help protect her anonymity. I'm going to go ahead and put him back, and I'll show you guys his enclosure. So right now I'm keeping his enclosure in front of my fireplace. This is not where it's going to be permanently, but he's still new and in quarantine, so that's why I'm keeping it right here. I don't have a stand for it to use while he's in quarantine, but I do have a place where the tank is going to go when he's out of quarantine, in my reptile and fish room. So don't worry, this is not a permanent location for this enclosure. I have another spot for it once he's out of quarantine. Here's the guy right here on his hammock. As you can see, there are some stains and some scratches and stuff on the glass. Even after soaking it and power washing it, I wasn't quite able to get rid of all of the nastiness that was on the tank, but I've done the best I can. See there on the back, there's some residue from some duct tape that was stuck to the tank. I don't know why, but there was a lot of duct tape stuck to the tank. Up here you can see there's a lot of scratches and scuffs all over the place. It was cleaned the best I could get it. I salvaged all of these rocks and this basking log from his old home, but that was really all I kept. Everything else in here is new, like the fake plants and the hide and the hammock. These are the welcome home rocks I was talking about that my coworker's kids made for him. 2 of them say welcome home, and then this other one just says welcome. I apologize for the poop. He pooped today, and I need to get in here and clean this. Like I said, I have to clean this every single day because, you know, bearded dragons poop a lot. His salad, all he's done is kick it around because that's all he does with his salad for some reason. I am dusting it. I am putting some strawberries in here for him, but it looks like he doesn't even have interest in eating those anymore. So I don't know what his deal is with his food. As far as his lights go, this right here on the left side of the tank is a linear UVB fixture. But this fixture, interesting enough, had this piece of plastic over the UVB bulb. And I don't know how much you guys know about UV, but UV can't pass through plastic. So I removed this plastic piece from the fixture. Also on the right here, he came with these 2 lamps here, which are both heat bulbs. And then I got another bulb which is a UV bulb for this side of the tank. And then this right here is another UV bulb that I happen to have on hand. I don't have a dome for it, but I'm just laying it up here just to provide even more UV to this side of the tank, because the linear UV fixture only takes up half the tank, and he needs UV on both sides of the tank. And here's what I was talking about when I said the rim was melted. So it's melted right there. And then also in the middle of the tank, you can see that the middle brace is melted, and there's screws in it. It's actually being held together with a piece of wood. Regarding temperatures, I do have in here a couple of probes. One of them is for a thermostat that controls his heat lamps, and the other one is literally just for a thermometer, which is mounted right here on the front, and it's actually reading 112, which is a little hot. So I should probably turn this down a little bit. Here he comes to bask under the heat. Now this is a 75-gallon tank, and although that is a good size for a bearded dragon, the particular dimensions of this tank I don't like, because it is 4 feet across, but as far as front to back depth go, it's only 12 inches. And as you can see by looking at him, from nose to tip of tail, he is more than 12 inches long. And for him, turning around in here is a little bit of a challenge. I do want to get a tank that has a little bit more depth to it this way. And I did put one on layaway today. I went to my favorite local exotic store, Tropical World Pets, and I made a down payment on a 75-gallon front opening tank. It's not the Exoterra brand, but it's just like an Exoterra. As far as dimensions go, it is a little bit shorter than this one, but it has more depth front to back. And I think that'll be good for him to have more floor space. Look how skinny he is. It's just heartbreaking. And also how pale he is. You look at his head, you see he's got a lot of orange and yellow on his head. And you look at his body, and it's just pale gray. And like I said, he's a citrus morph. And so he's supposed to be a lot more yellow and orange, like on his head. So that's why I think he's got a lot of stuck shed on him. So we'll see what we can do about that. Regarding Garrus's health, I do have an appointment scheduled for him with the vet this coming Wednesday. That will be a week and a half after I got him. Unfortunately, that's just the quickest the vet was able to get him in. It's not an emergency or anything like that. It's just a general checkup to see how he's doing, just so I can get a better idea of what his health is like. Considering there was that plastic piece covering his UV bulb, there may be some sort of bone disease or something like that, or some sort of deficiency there that we need to look out for. Like I said, he's also severely underweight. He has those little black specks on him, and he looks like he has stuck shed on him. So those are some items that I definitely want to bring to the vet's attention. And also, I want to get him eating his greens, and I'm not quite sure how to do that. So maybe the vet will have some information for me there. Or maybe one of you watching will have a suggestion that I could try to help get him eating his greens. Well, there you have it, guys. That is my rescued bearded dragon and his story. If you guys have any suggestions on anything that I can do to improve his care, please let me know. Although I did a lot of research into bearded dragons before I got him, this is still my first bearded dragon, and I don't profess to know a whole lot about bearded dragon care. I'm very inexperienced with bearded dragons, and I'll take all the advice I can get. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to hit that like button down below, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so that way you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.